The very important psychology principle you should know to go through your interviews and get that job offer. When it comes to psychology principles for interview, a lot of people think about mirroring the interviewer's body language or following the pace of the interviewer. Mirroring the interviewer's body language, following the pace of the interviewer. Personally, I don't really recommend these approaches. Not that I disagree. I agree with some of the principle behind this. These are very hard to follow, especially during the interviews. There will be a certain level of stress, and not all of us are comfortable or conscious enough to pay attention to body language. Today, I want to work with you on a deeper level of psychology, how we can apply this throughout our interview strategy, not just that behavioral change. First of all, let's look at how companies decide on hiring someone. We all know, right? They would put together a few interviewers, maybe from different departments, different functions, and definitely different levels to meet up with the list of candidates. Sometimes some of the interviewers will be together, forming a panel as well. And after or in between these interviews, they will be asking the interviewers, hey, so what do you think of this candidate? The interviewers, interestingly, if they like the person, they will say a lot of good things like, I think he's a good fit, I think he has the skills, plus I like him. And that statement usually doesn't need further justification, right? Like we don't need to explain why we like somebody. And that person, it could mean that person is likable, or it could mean these two have a bit of chemistry, right? So, or he can see that they can work together. But in the opposite case, when the interviewer does not like a person, because of political reasons, they would usually not be so direct and say, I don't like the person. So why they will be so cautious about sharing they don't like the person? Don't forget to subscribe. If you are already a subscriber, please do give the video a like. It means a lot to me to continue with this channel, because there is always a chance that the person eventually gets hired, right? So if that person gets hired and someone in the company knows that you don't like the person, this sounds like a bit of a personal bias or prejudice against that person. So that's not very nice. Like as human, we kind of want to avoid that unpleasant situation. So if an interviewer does not like the person, he or she would more likely to say, I think he doesn't have the right skills, or I think she's a bit skeptical about committing to a job for too long, or I just don't think this person can fit into our culture. He's not one of us. So this kind of things sound a bit more objective, right? But what's happening is actually something has happened on the sensing and feeling level of the interviewer, and the interviewer then try to rationalize it into the thinking process and express it as a result of thinking. But the same thing actually happens to everyone. Like sometimes the same thing can happen without us knowing. Like we actually do not like someone because of the feeling and sensing sort of things, our automatic mechanism inside our brain. If you want to know more about this theory, you can always read the book Thinking Fast and Slow, right? So there is a lot of shortcut inside our brain. And coming back to interview, we can tap on that to create some of the ease for our for the interviewers. So when I say ease, it's basically reducing the cognitive load. Generally, our brains do not like to work. It prefers, if it's a person, I think it prefers to sit in a couch watching Netflix instead of doing a lot of hard work, numbers crunching, or interviewing someone, or making decisions, or gathering information, right? So what we can do then is to help the interviewer by giving information that his brain is already familiar with. The things his brain is already familiar with are how things are being described and communicated in his domain expertise. So if you are interviewing with the company, I know everyone would go to the company website, and sometimes you may read the news or related information. Pay a lot of attention to not so much of their fluffy things, and you don't need to remember exactly which year the company was founded by whom, but you should try to learn the way they speak, the lingo. So I give you one example. I used to work in multiple different industries. And so let's say in e-commerce industry, people or companies that are selling on the e-commerce platform, they will be called sellers. But the same people usually are a subset or a sort of an overlapping group of the same people in the retail industry, in the traditional retail. These people are more likely to be called as retailers or resellers. But the same people, if you talk about them in, say, another industry that provides payment solutions, these people will be called merchants. So just by knowing, at least knowing the sort of the lingo in different field, when you enter that field for an interview, you use their language. Lingo would include more than just how you describe the different parties in the ecosystem, but also how they describe their mission, their values, and the things that they need to achieve and the challenges they see. So learn their lingo and learn their framing and learn their lens to see the world. And so that when you go in, you are perfectly comfortable in their shoes and look like just one of them. Here, our very short video will come to an end. I hope this little tip on psychology principle will help you to be more successful.